happy Monday. I hope you guys all had an amazing weekend, and I want to thank you guys so much again for tuning back into the channel today. And you guys are probably wondering why there isn't an actual number on the thumbnail, and it's because of the fact that I wasn't actually able to day trade today. I got called into work, and normally I day trade while I'm at work also, but I knew I would actually be, busy and active and hands-on today, so I wasn't actually able to take any trades, as you guys can see, right? But I did want to, take the time to just give my analysis on what ended up occurring throughout the day and some important reports that are coming up later this week, right? But, right, as we are seeing the NASDAQ on the 1 day, 1 minute, what I did see going on, right? All of pre-market, this thing was indicating signs of an uptrend, right? Trading between the top and middle VWAP. And what ended up happening? Well, it ended up peaking out, starting to sell off, right? And so actually market open was here where we see this increase in volume bar. And so what ended up happening? Well, we saw this thing pop a bit, right? It would sell off and pop, right? There was a bit of a battle between the bears and the bulls there, and ultimately the bears ended up winning, right? This thing ended up selling off, broke below the middle VWAP, and then right over here, right? I think I would have definitely been in SQQQ as, I saw this thing continuously getting rejected, but I think I ultimately would have given back a lot of profit on this change in direction, right? I typically know the way I trade, and I really struggle with trying to, really know when to average down when it comes to being in a position, right? So say I was in the inverse ETF and it was going my way, but it started to bounce, right? I really need to get better at trying to manage that risk, right? By decreasing my share size as it starts to go south, right? But ultimately this thing ended up bouncing, completely changed direction, right? Hit top VWAP and then got rejected and then continued to sell off all the way to bottom VWAP, right? So today was definitely a very choppy day, right? We had this thing sell off, completely changed direction, and then got rejected, peaked out, and then sold off, right? So this thing was all over the place today. I know with these constant changes in direction, I could have definitely seen myself, been on the wrong side of the trade, right? And because of that, I probably would have wanted to be more, cautious, or just in general, right? Not just me, but anyone trading today. With all of this heavy, direction changing, it's may not even be the best day-to-day trade, right? Because of the fact that this thing was just not very clear, right? In terms of which way it was going to be headed. It was up, down, all over the place, right? So as this thing peaked out, sold off, right, all the way down to the bottom VWAP, what ended up happening? Well, this thing bounced, right, and then just started to trade sideways all throughout the remainder of the day, right? So we did ultimately, the last hour of the market, the power hour, we did see this thing climb a decent amount, and so that was amazing. But one thing I did notice is that unfortunately it didn't push up lots of the tech stocks with it, right? So if you were looking at something like Tesla, for example, well, what we'll notice is that this thing, right, the NASDAQ future was pushing up close to around 1145, right? But if you go to something like Tesla, you'll notice that this thing was selling off all day, right? So it was such a bummer to see, Tesla being a very, it's very heavily correlated with the NASDAQ, right? So it sucked to see this thing start to run and not see lots of the tech stocks that I'm invested into, follow through the way they normally do, right? So I was down about 87 in terms of my swings, right? As far as how my swing positions are doing overall, I am down $335, right? If you guys recall from just, I think it was just 2 weeks ago, the swings themselves were up a decent amount. I was up about 400 to 500, but because of the fact that the market's been tanking, right, this past week and last week, it's absolutely just killed my P&L open. Am I worried about this? No, not really. The only ones, I'm just keeping an eye on are Lucid and Rivian, right? As you guys can tell, those are my two biggest losers. Lucid is down almost 20% from when I bought in, right? 18%. And Lucid is down over 12%, right? So I do know, right, that they were very risky trades, right? And the main reason I got into them was I do see lots of value long term, but I don't know if you guys heard the news. Elon Musk actually came out saying that he thinks that those two companies will go bankrupt if they don't change their ways, right? And because of that, right, the stock has been tanking for both of them, and not the best news, but I still see value in them long term, so I am holding. As far as my only winners, right, you guys can see it's been Meta and Tesla's barely green, broken even, right? So it's pretty much been Meta and Roblox actually that have maintained in the green, and a little bit of Spotify. But I am shocked that Roblox itself was in the green because of the fact that that one was one of my biggest losers at one point, right? When all of these were in the green. But yeah, long term, what do I see happening? Well, I did mention there are some reports this week. So tomorrow, right, at 8:30 Eastern time, right, or 5:30, so an hour before market opens, they are going to release the CPI data report. For any of you who don't know what that is, that stands for the Consumer Price Index report, right? And pretty much what is going to happen tomorrow. So if we see that inflation and core CPI, right, ended up decreasing, then the chances are we're going to see the market react in a positive way. Because if we were expecting it, right, to decrease and it actually ends up decreasing, well, what does that really mean big picture? Big picture, what that's signifying is, well, maybe the Federal Reserve isn't going to need to be so aggressive in their interest rate hikes because of the fact that they're doing, what their intended effect is, and that's to decrease overall inflation, right? So if they see that inflation's actually decreasing, right, it's going to make them not want to be as aggressive, right? Doesn't mean that they won't be, but it gives them more of a probability that the interest rate hike won't be so aggressive, right? Like a 0.75% or more is typically considered aggressive. So maybe it could be a 0.5, right? So we just really need to see what actually ends up being reported. But on the other hand, if the CPI or inflation, right, report comes out and it's higher than expected, well, we can see the market tank because of the fact that we can expect a more aggressive interest rate hike heading into December by the Federal Reserve, given the fact that the intended effect they're having with these interest rate hikes isn't actually, happening, right? Or it's not actually having the intended effect that they want it to. They want to see it going down. So, right, if we see tomorrow morning, hour before market opens, as I mentioned, inflation decrease, then it could act positively, right? The market overall. But if we do see it increase, then we can see it react negatively. We just need to see what is reported, right? But as far as where the NASDAQ is trading, right, I ultimately did think we were going to start to pull on back, but we actually had this nice little green day today. But just this one green day alone, right, doesn't mean anything. As you guys can tell, anytime we approach these general areas of resistance, it tends to have an aggressive sell-off, right? So tomorrow, the positive or the catalyst itself can act positively and push this thing up, or we can see a big drop, right? So we just really need to be watching it closely at 5:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow, right? But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will actively be day trading tomorrow. Other than that, if you guys have any questions at all, want me to break down any stock or any stock indicator, my apologies, go ahead and drop a comment and I will be more than happy to go ahead and do that myself or even make a video on it, right? But that's pretty much everything. I will be posting a recap tomorrow, so I hope to see you guys then. Take care and have a good rest of your day.